Hello, Vince. How you doing?
Good morning, Senator. Great to speak with you.
Nice to talk to you.
All right, well, I'll just jump right in here. I know we only got about 5 minutes or so and plenty of stuff to talk about. So let me just start in broad terms with the GOP takeover the Senate and really the resounding victory for Republicans in the midterm. What is your takeaway that the message voters were trying to send to Washington?
Well, President Obama said his policies were on the ballot, and they were, and so it was a pretty stunning repudiation of his policies. But I think Americans will be very pleasantly surprised to find out that the Republican Party is not the party of no. The Democrat Senator Harry Reid's pretty well been a one-man party of no. And so there's just a logjam that I think is just waiting to be broken here in the Senate. We're going to return to a regular process of putting pieces of legislation through the committee process, having open and full debate, allowing Democrats to offer amendments. We'll take votes. And what we're really going to do is reach out to the other side, try and find the areas of agreement. There's got to be plenty of areas of agreement on reducing regulations and making our tax system more competitive, keeping the price of energy low. If you're going to manufacture things, you need power. Cheap power is better than expensive power. So there's got to be plenty of areas of agreement. Not asking Democrats to violate their principles or violating ours, but areas of agreement that we really can help improve our economy so it grows in a robust fashion. So, yeah, businesses competing for labor, that's how you increase people's wages in a sustainable fashion. So it's what we're dedicated to doing. I think Republicans are really approaching this responsibility that the American people bestowed on us with a great deal of humility and a great deal of dedication to start accomplishing things for the good of the American public.
You know, in reading some of your comments about and again, barring the unforeseen, you will end up chairing the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. And reading some of your comments about how you'll approach that chairmanship, that does seem to be the tone that you want to strike. I think people probably remember you in the fiery exchange with Secretary Clinton, but you're talking about doing exactly what you just said, which is let's find the things that we can actually get some movement on here.
Well, first of all, let me dispute the fiery exchange. The only fire really came out of Secretary Clinton. I was just asking some pretty simple questions that she didn't particularly like. But no, the way I approached my business career, I didn't sit down at a negotiating table and start arguing or picking a fight right away. I started out every negotiation trying to find every possible area of agreement first. It built a relationship, developed a level of trust. So when you finally got to those areas of disagreement, it was a whole lot easier finding common ground. So, that's worked for me well in about 30-some years in the private sector and business. It's exactly how I've been approaching, quite honestly, my committee hearings and everything in the last 4 years. And it's exactly how I'll approach the chairmanship of this new committee.
In talking about it, I know the fiscal issues are a major concern of yours as well. You mentioned the debt. I believe historically you've called our debt or the debt load immoral for America. I wonder if you have trouble gaining traction on that, much like Congressman Paul Ryan does sometimes when he talks about Social Security, in terms of with the electorate, because it's just not a sexy issue, and nobody likes to hear that we have to tighten our belt. Well,
it's the reason why we haven't really taken any significant efforts to solve the problems. But, I've been at the forefront. I will continue to be at the forefront of trying to describe exactly how unsustainable our debt and deficit really is, how it threatens future prosperity, how we literally are mortgaging our children's future, which is immoral. So, no, I'm not going to stop at all. I've been doing that for 4 years, traveling around the state of Wisconsin with my PowerPoint presentation, holding town hall meetings, holding telephone town hall meetings, because the first step in solving any problem is you have to admit you have the problem, and then you have to properly define it. We're not doing either of those two yet, so we're a long ways from solutions if we aren't collectively willing to admit we have that problem and properly define it as a 30-year demographic bubble. That's really the relevant time frame, so that's why I'm pointing out the 30-year deficits so Americans really start understanding why we have to start addressing these problems sooner rather than later.
Well, it's not 2015 yet, so let's talk about a couple of things quickly that we have in front of you for the most part today. I believe there's a Keystone vote. Is that still expected for today? And if so, what do you ultimately expect will come of that when it reaches President Obama's desk?
Well, let's hope we pass it in the lame duck. If not, we should be able to pass it in the new Congress. What we're hearing is every indication President Obama intends to veto that, which would really be unfortunate because this is private sector investment. It would create thousands, tens of thousands of jobs. It will be one of those things that kind of keep energy prices low and competitive, which is a huge competitive we have in our global economy. And by the way, from a standpoint of environmental friendliness, it's the best way of transporting that oil. So I have no idea why President Obama is opposed to that. I think it's primarily he's just following the wishes of his environmental extreme supporters. And so it makes no sense to, I think, the vast majority of Americans. So hopefully he'll change his mind and actually sign that bill into law and permit the construction of the Keystone XL pipeline. It's well past time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, let me move to ISIS then, and of course the terrible news recently of another American who's been beheaded. I wonder, Senator, if you have a feeling as to whether or not we're gaining any movement against ISIS given the airstrikes, and whether there's additional consideration on whether more might be necessary.
Well, I totally support President Obama's stated goal of degrading and ultimately destroying ISIS. I'd go beyond that, Islamic terrorism, but that's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. It was very unfortunate, very unwise for him, after stating that goal, taking off the table and signaling to our enemies what we will or will not do. And the fact of the matter is these airstrikes have had some limited effect. It's fortunate that ISIS has not overrun the city of Kobani in Syria, close to the Turkish border. But the fact of the matter is ISIS is effectively recruiting jihadists from around the world, including the West, including America. And until the world sees ISIS as a loser, as a losing organization, they'll continue to be able to recruit, and that's pretty threatening for the world. And so the fact of the matter is all that ISIS has to do to not be perceived as losing or in order to be perceived as winning, is not to lose. And so we have got to have a strategy that starts making ISIS look like a loser. We've got to start taking back territory. We've got to start hitting their leaders. And unfortunately, right now, we don't have a robust enough effort to accomplish that.
Do you have any concerns about attacks on the homeland, not necessarily generated from the Middle East, but by people who are sympathetic with their cause?
Absolutely. The phenomenon of homegrown terrorists is real. We've seen it. We've seen terrorist attacks on our soil repeatedly. And from my standpoint, it's a very real threat. And we need to be concerned about it. And from my standpoint, it's one of the reasons we have to secure our border. It's top priority of my chairmanship on the Committee of Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. We've got to pass a strong border security enforcement bill. But no, this is a threat that we have to take seriously and do everything we can to defend America and keep Americans safe.
That's probably my time, Senator. I sure appreciate it. It's good to speak with you.
Have a great day.
Okay, take care.